All right. Hi there, and welcome to the House Hack podcast. Ryan and Charlie here. Welcome to this trailer episode. This is the first episode of the podcast. Charlie, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Ryan. Quite excited for this. I think a bit of a new direction with what we're doing and bringing your skills from the previous podcast and really applying it to a new medium and trying out what we're doing in a new way. It should be really exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm hyped for it. So I guess really we should start off with a couple of minutes just spent on the House Hack story, right? So people have found us from social, they might know us personally early days, but actually we wanted to try and reach more people as we grow the business. So perhaps let's start off with just telling people how we started out.
Yeah, it's always a good starting place. I feel like we do this very often in our calls with everyone, don't we? House Hack seems like a bit of a counterproductive name a little bit, but really how it began is back in March, April time during 2020, during the coronavirus lockdown. We started thinking about ways that we could really make a meaningful impact during that time period. So we were there in our final year as Loughborough University students, as housemates as well, and really sort of weighing up our options, had a list of different activities to try. Everyone got on Zoom, met up with family during that time, but one of the things we wanted to try was what we call a hackathon. And so from our Enactus days in first and second year, to us, that meant working on these big global issues. But when we started thinking about it a bit more, really we wanted to have more tangible impact than that. And so we've met a few people across the 3 years at university so far that had their own businesses. And we thought, why not apply that model to them and really take what is a hackathon, but actually have a real impact through it as well. So we got together 9 participants and 3 businesses, April 16th. And really the feedback was pretty great, wasn't it? And I think just seeing how both sides valued it, that really made a difference. And from there, really kind of gained traction and started moving.
Yeah, no, I love how you remember the date all the time as well. I'm never as good with those sort of details. And I think really the impressive thing for me has been how we've been able to pivot, to develop House Hack from that lockdown project to what is now a business, what is now something that is our adventure together, is our own startup, and as you mentioned, has that impact at the heart of it on students, on graduates, on young people as they start off in their early stage careers, but also on businesses as well. And it's been really interesting to see how the types of businesses have evolved, the different sorts of problems that we've been solving through our challenges and our hackathons, and yeah, just the size of the businesses as well. And I suppose that's part of how we've structured the business model, which I'm sure we'll come to. But maybe the starting question would be, has there been a biggest takeaway for you so far, biggest learning so far?
So I think that switch between being a project that's passion orientated into really considering it as a business that's your full-time deal, that your full-time thing, that's a very interesting transition, because then you start valuing your time differently. It doesn't become, oh, I just want to help. It becomes, I want to help, but I need to get paid. That adds that extra bit of dimension to it, which we've transitioned to over last summer and throughout the final months of last year. And now being able to use this as our primary job, as our main thing that we do. Like, this is week in, week out. This isn't just oh, I do it on weekends and evenings. I mean, I do it on weekends and evenings as well, but I do it alongside that. And I think that transition from doing consulting work as I was over the summer into now doing this full time and it's running as a job as also as a business, and thinking about it in different ways. So as a business owner, as a employee, as a manager, like there's 3 different people within me every time. And I think that makes the whole business very interesting to work on. And it almost feels like you have 3 personalities. I don't know if you felt the same, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I do actually. It's a really interesting kind of perspective, and I hope that that kind of startup mindset is something that we can bring, and that kind of relatability is something that comes through in the podcast as a medium. And it can be something that even if people know us, even if people don't, if they don't know the brand, they don't know the business, it's a different way to engage with us. It's a deeper level of engagement. And you mentioned earlier on that I started off on the 2% podcast and that project, and learning to produce, to edit, to kind of public speak as well as that contains parts of podcasting as well. But for you starting out on this journey with the House Hack podcast, how does the medium, I suppose, appeal to you, and what are you hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, so I've listened to quite a lot of podcasts in my time, appeared on a few as well, including the 2% podcast,
Of
of course.
course, of course.
But I think for me, podcasts allow that deeper dive, that really kind of in your head experience, shall we say. So something that people will take out on walks. I've often listened to, say, in the gym, and just when I'm doing tasks that I don't have to think about. That is a really powerful medium to convey a story for one, but also to convey a debate for two as well. So from what I think this medium can help us achieve is bringing that debate, bringing that interesting conversation to people in a long format. And also personally, for me, it's a good challenge because I'll probably do it throughout, but I'll probably speak quite quickly when I get excited. And I think by doing this process of recording a podcast, I have to be more conscious about how I sound and refraining myself from going into it. I think that's a good challenge to have as well, because it knock-on effects wise comes to public speaking, it comes to everything else you do in life. So for me, I'm looking forward to the challenge, but I'm also looking forward to getting a deep dive into the topics and everything else we're looking to explore. But what about yourself? How are you thinking about this as a second podcast venture? Is that something different? You thinking about it differently to first time? The nerves all gone, or what are you thinking?
No, it's an interesting one, and I think there's definitely an element of that, in that once you do something enough times, once you're practiced, seasoned, experienced, you can start to use those words in something. You do approach it in a different way, and so I do think that I'll be able to bring that in terms of extracting as much out of the guests and you as possible. Making sure that the episodes are going in the right direction and those sort of things. But I think maybe now transitioning to the House Hack podcast with the business, it's going to be really interesting to see who we can speak to and kind of get those really different perspectives. And so with that in mind, I think the sentence that's going to be really, really key for us is that kind of first description that those of you listening will have seen. And that's making the podcast focus on how the modern working environment can meet the needs of both young professionals and businesses to create the careers of tomorrow. And I must credit Charlie with writing that, actually, because that's his work. But it really gets to the heart of what we're trying to do at House Hack and what we're trying to achieve with this podcast as well. The working environment is changing. Careers are not what they used to be, in the sense of that traditional, you spend 20, 30 years, whatever long, at a company, and you expect the same thing. The relationship between the employee and the employer from a younger and younger age, so it seems, as Generation Z are coming in, disrupting the entire modern working environment. And we want to kind of cut to the heart of that, get everyone's perspective on how things are changing, how you're engaging with it, no matter which audience you fit in, and kind of have that conversation, split it open, and yeah, really get to the needs. Because I think you spend so long of your life working that it's becoming even more important to get it right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, what is really important is perhaps missing is that both sides of the equation that we're looking at here don't necessarily understand one another. They don't really see the perspective and don't really listen. And I think that's what we can hope to achieve
Mm.
here, is to both offer the alternative opinion, but also listen to the one that they convey. So bringing together and bridging effectively the two opinions to try and find a healthy balance where the employer finds a trust in the employee and can invest in them, but also that the young person going through that experience finds value from their job beyond just a paycheck. It's always beyond that. And I think that is going to be a really core element of our debate here, is what is the most important thing for people when they enter the workforce, and how can the business really meet that need in a way that's helping them retain talent in the long term.
Yeah, no, bang on. And I think the medium of podcasting is so key to get to the heart of that. We've mentioned questions, debate, challenges, discussion. That's exactly what we're hoping to cut to and get to the heart of with this in terms of the format. But maybe let's spend a second thinking about the audience, right? So who are we expecting to be having on as guests? Who are we expecting and hoping to have listened to the podcast? And who are the different sides that we're talking about that we're looking to really get listening?
Yes, you've got a few different people. I think the first thing that we want to say is that, of course, ourselves as entrepreneurs, business owners, Gen Z, young people, we fit a bit of the category of the people we want to speak to, but we don't want to have an echo chamber here where we're just nodding our heads and saying, yes, yes, we love what you're saying here. That's the key point, is we want to speak to people who are different and are going to offer those different viewpoints. So to summarize really on who we're looking for, the first kind of people are the HR professionals, the people who have to employ these young people. Like, that's a really important opinion that I think we don't see enough of, in terms of listening to their side of the debate and really valuing HR as a function and the core element it plays both in startups as well as big corporates. Like, it can be a huge role. And I think looking at that interaction and that dynamic from their point of view, it's going to be really, really interesting. But then also bringing in people that are the young professionals or have experience working with communities as well. Those two types of people are going to be really interesting to hear from the alternative point of view of, okay, cool, like, how do I know that I can get enough out of this job? How can I feel appreciated? How can I learn? I think learning is going to be a key element here as well. There will be a really good people to speak to. So HR professionals, kind of thought leaders in the graduate space, Gen Z talent, and of course, entrepreneurs as well, which will be inevitable. But I think out of the four of them, we want to speak to mostly the HR professionals, and then of course the Gen Z talent as well.
Yeah, no, nice. Really good overview there of who we're going to get in touch with, who we're going to bring onto the podcast, get their perspectives, and kind of get those conversations going. So I think that's it for this pilot, this trailer episode of the House Hack podcast. Yeah, if there are any closing remarks, Charlie, I think now's the time, because I think we're up.
Nice. I just want to say it's going to be a good journey. I'm really looking forward to it, just having these conversations and getting a deep dive into it more than anything else. So yeah, I think we're all set and looking forward to the next season, really.
Yeah, really excited for what's to come. And yeah, thank you for listening, and see you in the episodes.